One Piece manga chapter 926. Now this was mostly a Luffy and Kid interaction chapter, which was great to see because we don't get character interaction as often as we should. One Piece has a lot of characters, and sometimes us as readers want to see how some of these characters interact with others. So apart from the little interaction we got with Kid and Luffy and Sabaody, we're also getting more depth here with Kid and how he sees Luffy and how Luffy sees him. So this was more of a chill, enjoyable chapter. Obviously this was very pale in comparison to the madness that we got last week, but we're not going to get hype stuff every chapter. There has to be build up to things to give more depth to what's going to happen moving forward. And it was a pretty funny chapter as well, especially with the scenes with Nami and Shinobu and their attempt to spy for information. And we got a little more insight on the progression of how things are going with the gathering of forces for the alliance against Kaido. Now the first section of this chapter focused more on each of the Straw Hats and what they were currently doing. Now Nami is working with Shinobu to find some information about where the weapons are going to be stored, and this really goes back to what one of the members of the rebellion forces stated. Now it was stated that Orochi had actually removed all forms of weapons to prevent a rebellion from happening, and so this is going to be helpful for the alliance to have weapons to fight. So that's something that's already being set up. And it's funny because one of the traders was saying that, are these people trying to start a war, not knowing that those weapons are going to be used for the war that's going to take place in Wano. So there's going to be enough weapons to go around. And finally we have the Kid and Luffy section, and it was dope because, again, as I said before, interactions is probably one of the best aspects of One Piece, given as we have so many interesting characters. Now when it comes to Luffy and Kid and them having their spirits supposedly broken, these guys are having a lot of fun in jail, and we can see that Luffy and Kid are competing. Again, it kind of affirms the kind of rivalry that I thought these two had, and both of them being the only two individuals to have conquerors amongst the Supernova makes that more evident. Again, I think Kid is more or less equal to Luffy, and I think Oda is molding him to become the next Shiki in a sense. That's the vibe I get off of Kid. Now what's kind of crazy here is that even though Kid and Luffy are shackled up in Sea Stone, these guys are still incredibly strong in terms of physical strength. Based on what was shown, Kid is pretty relative to Luffy in terms of physical power at a base form. Now Kid does have one arm here, so that might be a factor to him being stronger, maybe. And one could also say that this is a form of training for Luffy and Kid, because even though these guys are nerfed, Luffy and Kid are doing the most in prison. So maybe once the shackles comes off, there might be a little growth for Luffy and Kid. We also got introduced to one of the headliners, and as we all expected, these guys are tame in comparison to a Supernova, and in this case Luffy and Kid were shackled up, so that makes it even worse. And this really shows how horrible Smile Devil Fruits are, because his whole body was essentially inside of the hippo. Now I do think we're going to see better users moving forward though. Now we also saw Caribou in this chapter, and if you guys follow the cover stories, you would know that X Drake was the individual who brought him here. And there's also a big theory surrounding Caribou and him potentially giving information to Kaido about Shirahoshi, so it seems like Oda is bringing him back to the story for a reason, and it might be for that specific reason. And again, Oda is still teasing the hell out of the guy in the jail cell, but all in all this was an enjoyable chapter, even though nothing much happened. But you know, these kind of things are to be expected. But the highlight of this chapter was definitely the stuff between Kid and Luffy. Seeing the interaction there was dope. But that is pretty much it for this video. Just my quick thoughts on this chapter. How do you guys feel about this chapter? Comment down below what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. It is Pharaoh, and I will see you folks later. Peace.